So before I start this video on this behemoth, I'd like to thank some people who made this video possible. Thank you JoltKing67 for the Vulcan belts, and thank you everybody who appreciated this build and kept me going at making it. Also thank you Goodwill for supplying all the blasters. So, I assume you came here for one reason, and one reason only, is to see the blaster. So, the thing that I'm trying to show off here is a Nerf Vulcan with some things. So at first glance it just looks like a Vulcan with a deploy and some metal and a Maverick, and which it is. I can't tell if this is in frame or not, so this is going to be a fun video. I found this Vulcan at Goodwill for $5, and I previously found a Vulcan, but I didn't buy it, and I'm kicking myself to this day about it. The one weird thing I noticed about this Vulcan is this paint is, well, let's just call it nice and say it's yellow. Originally this is a very vibrant orange, just like the regular Nerf orange. I assume you guys know the Nerf orange at this point, so I don't really have to get a blaster. But while I was in here, I noticed that there was a ton of battery corrosion. It did not come with the battery tray, did not come with the battery door, the belts, a bucket. It came with no tripod, nothing. It was a bare bones Vulcan, which is exactly what I wanted. I remember seeing the Deplorable mod, which I'll get into, a long time ago and really wanted to make this, so that's the reason I picked this Vulcan up. And when I got into it, there's a ton of dirt, a ton of dead spiders, which was fun with a person with arachnophobia, and just overall terrible condition. It wasn't really worth saving the blaster and restoring it. It was more tinkering with it. Like I said, this did not come with any of the original Vulcan accessories, and so getting a bucket is essential because I don't want to hold out the chain for it to feed. And then I found a Maverick, which I didn't bother putting in the video because at the time I wasn't recording videos, and it's just a Maverick. That was the only thing I picked up at the store, maybe probably something else. It was also pretty sun-baked. I'm pretty sure they came from the same family. And then this deploy was actually from Craigslist. I don't know why I said it came from Goodwill, but it was being born. I started cutting out the battery tray and the original handle, which came off like here, which is where this cut is, where the original handle would go, and this is all battery stuff. And as you can see, I completely rechanged this, and it runs on a 2S LiPo housed in the deploy stock. Hopefully that was in frame. The phone's like maybe 2 feet above my head because this is a huge build and this camera's not very good at capturing wide angles. So right now, even if it's off, which clearly it's off, the bolt is stuck. I've tried messing around with it. Other people seem to chamber fine, so maybe this thing is just stuck, but it moves. This just stays stationary, but the plunger system moves. But when I was putting this together, people actually reached out to me about giving me Vulcan belts, which was very kind of them. And I have one right here, the other two are on the floor. I don't really feel like getting up and getting them. But they're donated to me by JoltKing67, which he made a video about a Rapid Strike and Vulcan integration. I will link his channel and that video in the description. And so he didn't really have a use for the Vulcan belts. So he said he picked up one of them with the Vulcan, I think, and 2 of them at a thrift store. And he gave them to me when he sent me a box of stuff a while ago for, I believe, yeah, it was around my birthday. And at the time I wasn't really too motivated about this project because it was just, let's see if I can get it done in a night. And then as I was researching the Deplorable project, I started to reignite the fire of working on this. The only thing I bought that wasn't secondhand is the screws and the metal bar holding this together, and obviously the hot glue and the wire and solder. Now everything else is secondhand, including the striped flywheel cage that is stuffed inside this Vulcan. Really hope you can see that. It's a striped cage with demolisher motors and barricade flywheels. which is the flywheel cage that came from this stripe from Nightwing's Foamworks. I will leave a link to his channel, of course, because he contributed the cage, and without him it wouldn't really be possible, because I throw out the stripe cage when I rewire my stripes. And so running on Demolisher motors makes it so it has a lot more voltage. Apparently the Demolisher motors are a whole lot better, and the serrated flywheels, meaning they have the teeth on the end, grab darts a whole lot better. So let's talk about where this crazy idea came from. It did not come from my brain, because I'm too stupid to come up with something like this. It came from Sergeant Deplorable. I'll leave Captain Xavier's video, or actually no, I'll leave Wallcom's video of where he overviewed the Deplorable that he made. Not Wallcom, Sergeant Deplorable. It was exactly the same thing in Yellow, Vulcan, Deploy, and Maverick. I tried to use the actual Deploy stock, because I'm a bit of a taller person, and I would have liked to have a longer stock, but it wouldn't work out because there's a whole bunch of trimming I'd have to do, and this isn't really an integration where I'm sanding epoxy putty and like focusing on paint or whatever. This was just a jank-ass project, because this thing was pretty thrashed, and I didn't really feel like spending time being so delicate with this. I did wash it, but there's still some in-caked dirt on the inside of this Vulcan shell, which I'm not too worried about cleaning. In the course of opening and closing this blaster, I did unfortunately lose the little flip-up sight. I've actually redone the flooring in here just a tiny bit. I still have an area to do. You can probably see from the B-roll. But I lost the sight. Don't know where it went. Completely missing. It might be in here, or it might be in a blaster bin. I have no clue. And it's kind of a fun mystery. So, obviously, Sergeant Deplorable, going back to what he did a little bit differently. The flywheel cage on mine is how a regular cage is. He did it like how it is on an incisor. And I think that was because he didn't want to sacrifice the 2 screw ports. I completely rewired this thing, and instead of using the... I forget what or how he wired his stripe cage, but I wanted all this to be kind of... make it look like it wasn't something a modder made, something that Hasbro might have produced, but that isn't really a clue. I used the on and off switch, usually the kill switch, to make it so the Vulcan can prime, even though mine doesn't, or just not use, or use batteries, like how it originally was. When I originally got this, I thought the motor was going to be destroyed, but I do have a Swarmfire that I would have happily stripped to put in here, but it turned out it would have been fine. Apparently, just the board got all messed up, and the motor was actually pretty fine. I did some testing. Actually, this is the first project I've ever done without any kind of guide or help, like wiring-wise, because it's such a simple blaster to rewire. People think this is pretty heavy. All the weight just comes from the middle here because of the firing mechanism and the big LiPo battery. Speaking of the battery, it's housed in this Deploy. A little too snugly. I still have to do some trimming on it. It is a 52,000 milliamp 50C 2S LiPo. It's a really heavy brick of a LiPo, but I figured if I had so much battery storage and space, I would have used it. Here's the other side of the shell. Not too much to go over, just a pretty regular looking Vulcan mod. I mean, not really a Vulcan mod, more of a Deplorable mod. You already seen how it fires, how to make one. You basically take a Deploy, you cut it. You take a Vulcan, you cut it. You take a Maverick and you cut it. I do have a 21 amp micro switch back here, which it's really hard to sandwich it all together and still have it so the 2 shells can be separated, because if the wire is hardwired without any connectors, it's really hard to do maintenance on it, in my opinion. Also, because this thing was so disgusting, this piece actually broke, so this is kind of weird, hence why in some clips it didn't feed well. I have to source another Vulcan or get another part. So I guess this is the end of this video. Hope it was interesting enough to watch through. Tell me your thoughts on this blaster. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you want me to paint it black? I won't, but I want to hear some feedback. So, that's the end of this video. Hopefully it was enjoyable for you to watch. I think I might be back to making videos. I need something to keep my mind off of my brain, so to speak. Lots of builds coming up. I did do a recent paint job, which was kind of hinted at. I did a Springer mod. I have some integration stuff, and hope you guys have a good rest of your night.